Do you see the white hare standing still for a moment? There are footprints there under the great oak. Oh, Ostara lies sleeping, and the Lord of the Woods, he's awaiting. Yes, the Lord of the Woods, oh, the Lord of the Woods, yes, the Lord of the Woods, he is awaiting. Hail and welcome to Grimspound, a Bronze Age settlement high on the uplands of Dartmoor, deep in the ancient kingdom of Dumnonia, where the Celtic Dumnoni tribe once roamed and farmed. I'm River Oak. I'm a druid of these parts. Now, although my welcome is very warm, I have to tell you today is not quite so warm. It's the very end of winter, and although we've got a lovely blue sky overhead, there is a very strong and quite a chilly breeze. So I apologise in advance for any wind noise or camera shake. But hey, Druids, we just love the wind. We love the wind because it's the element of air. It's wild, it's free, it's the element of dawn, it's the element of spring, and it's the element of intellect. And if you've been watching these videos, you will know that they are profoundly intellectual. Well, sort of anyway. Now you might be wondering why we're here. We are here because we are here to celebrate agriculture. Yes, my friends, it is time to get down and dirty in the mud. Oh, I say. And a quick word of warning for anybody with an anxious disposition. This episode will be extremely hairy. For I love hares, and my house is frankly full of them. In fact, I have at least one in every room, and some rooms have far more than their fair share. Hairball. Now, not only are hares very beautiful, they are also very special. Indeed, many would say they are magical. And just like the springtime, they embody exuberant energy and phenomenal fecundity. Sacred to the Celts, and even into the Victorian era, it was forbidden to kill a hare except at this time of year, when they were eaten in order to acquire their sexual prowess and mystical powers. But there was a dark side to being a hare, for the long paw of suspicion was often pointed at these gloaming, loving, shy and solitary creatures. For they were rumoured to be shape-shifters, witches in disguise, and nobody liked a witch. No, well, not until they needed her services as a healer, midwife or all-round wise woman. We'll be running with the hares again soon, but for now let's head back to the Pagan Wheel of the Year. So, just to recap before we start, a lightning tour of the Wheel of the Year. This is a cycle of 8 celebrations, each around 6 weeks apart, and it melds together the 4 major solar events of the year, that's the solstices and the equinoxes, with 4 ancient agricultural celebrations, each of which mark a really key time in the old North European farming calendar. And we kick off in the 12 o'clock position at Yule. Yule is the winter solstice. It's the longest night and the shortest day of the year. By Imbolc, it's still kind of chilly, but we're seeing the first signs of spring, maybe the occasional snowdrop. In the 3 o'clock position, the Spring Equinox, when night and day are in equipoise. That is Ostara. It's also called Alban Eilir in the Druid tradition. And now we're really beginning to get a feel for spring, aren't we? And there's wonderful things that are happening, particularly hares laying eggs. If you want to find out more about that, you'll have to keep watching. Next up comes Beltane. Oh, blissful Beltane, a time of bonfires and bonking, when we're going to embrace each other and the F word, fertility. Well, whatever did you think I was going to say? And no, you can't just fast forward to Beltane. And after all that excitement, it's going to be time to lounge about and enjoy midsummer, the longest day, the shortest night, with lovely, balmy, sunny days beside the seaside. Ice cream, anyone? But before long, we'll have to get up and do some work because it will be Lunasa, the first harvest, the harvest of corn, barley and wheat. Next we've reached the autumn equinox, a time again of equipoise between day and night, when we start to enter the dark half of the year. This is Mabon, or if you're a Druid, you're going to know it as Alban Eilir. It's the second harvest, the time when we bring in the fruit and the nuts. Next up, it's Samhain, that magical time of the year when the veil between this life and the other world is very thin, so thin that we can communicate with the dead, and in fact they may well just come a-walking around. Spooky! And then we're back where we started. We are back at midwinter, the winter solstice. It's Yule again. So our journey around the wheel of the year has now brought us to the spring equinox. And this certainly is a season of shape-shifting because it's a time of immense change. Certainly down in the valleys there is an explosion of colour. It's as though nature is shedding her dreary, drab winter coat, and everywhere there is an abundance of fresh new growth. And the many, many hues in the hedgerows match the colours of the frequent rainbows at this time of year. Yes, it's nearly the end of March, and this is a season of showers and synonyms. For Druids it is Alban Eilir, meaning the light of the earth. For other pagans it's Ostara, and according to Bede in an 8th century blog, it's a time when the Anglo-Saxons feasted in honour of the Germanic goddess Ostara. Ooh, by the way, estrogen, the hormone, was named after her. And Bede said that this festival later morphed into the Christian celebration known as Easter. Well, I bet you didn't see that coming. But although Mr. B was very venerable, when it came to all things pagan, he was, to be honest, a bit of a party pooper. So it's hard to be completely certain that he was not simply telling a priestly porker. Well, whatever the truth about Easter and Ostara, there is no doubt that this season of the year is a time when femininity is foremost. It's a time when fertility is focal. For whereas Imbolc celebrated the birth of the land, now here at Ostara, or Alban Eilir, we are celebrating the birth of animals. Also known as the vernal equinox, Alban Eilir is a time of balance between night and day. They are of equal length, but from now on we are entering the light half of the year. So it's time to leave the homely comfort of the hearth, throw open the door and get out into the world. For those winter days of musing are over, and now is the moment to realise our plans. And that's why we're here in this ancient agricultural community. Because now is the time to clear the fields of weeds, to plough fresh furrows and to sow the seeds that we hope later in the year will grow into a bountiful harvest. And that means literally on the land, but also metaphorically in our lives. But before we pull on our wellies and start planting, there is one more job to do. For at this time of equipoise, I do love that word equipoise, don't you? Equipoise, some people hate it, I think it's lovely. Equipoise, 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 equipoise. Yes, at this time of equipoise, when light and darkness are in perfect balance, there is someone I really think you should meet. It's someone you probably don't already know, but you really should. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce your shadow self! Yes, this is our shady side, the us we would rather not show to the world, our deepest, darkest secrets and fears, the self we're ashamed of. As Carl Jung said, it's the part of us we don't really want to be. Well, the truth is we can run but we can't hide, because this foul fella is an integral part of who we are. And the equinox is a perfect time to realise that we all balance lightness and darkness within us. So now is the time to reach out and make friends with our shadow self, to look them in the eye and maybe even to learn from them. Whew. Well, that's pretty heavy stuff, so it must be story time. Indeed it is, and for those of us of a certain age...
Are you sitting quite comfortably? Then I'll begin.
Well, I guess this is as close as I'm going to get to being warm and cosy. I've sat in an old roundhouse beside what would have been the hearth, and I'm going to tell you the story of Ostara and the hare. Now, I'm going to just give you a brief synopsis today, but if you want the full story in all its dramatic surround sound and glorious technicolor brilliance, then please check out my playlist called Telling Tales. Now, Ostara, she is the goddess of spring. She sleeps all winter long, deep in the earth, but when the spring equinox arrives and the hares start to dance above her head, well, Ostara, she wakes up and she walks the land, and wherever she walks, the ice melts, the snow thaws, and spring arrives. But one year, Ostara, well, she overslept, and when she did finally wake up, she was horrified to learn that the whole earth was gripped by winter. It had been in that grip of winter for far too long. And as she walked, she just found nothing but bleakness and barrenness. Everything was frozen hard. And in the snow, she spotted a sparrow, a little hen sparrow. We'll call her Sally. Anyway, she felt so guilty that she had caused the death of this hen sparrow that Ostara, she picked it up and she kissed it. And as she kissed it, her warm breath brought Sally the sparrow back to life. And she fluttered up and she sat on Ostara's shoulder. And there she stayed for many a year. And every year at springtime, the two would walk the earth. Ostara would bring in the spring, and Sally the sparrow would sing her joyful songs, and all the migrated birds would return. Now, one spring, they met a strange hare. It was a hare and a half. It was a hare with attitude. It was a hare like no other. We're going to call him Harry. But unlike in the movie, this time when Harry met Sally, it was love at first sight. Yes, Harry the hare fell instantly in love with Sally the sparrow. Well, it happens a lot, you know. Anyway, he began to dance an amazing dance, a beautiful dance, a seductive dance, a swirling, whirling, twirling, sensual dance. And Sally, well, she loved Harry too, and she fluttered down from Ostara's shoulder and started singing a song of her endearment. Well, poor old Ostara, she knew she was about to lose her mate, but you just can't stand in the way of love. So, with bit of goddess magic, she changed that sparrow with a great fluttering of feathers, followed by another fluttering of fur. There was a doe hare in place of the sparrow. Yes, indeed it was, a Jill, a beautiful, beautiful female hare. Anyway, Harry and Sally, they just ran off together. Yes, poor old Ostara. She had lost her friend. And then spring slipped into summer, and summer to autumn, and autumn to winter, and Ostara, she slept beneath the earth. But when the next spring came and she got up, well, quite honestly, she was in a bit of a grump because she just missed her friend so much. And believe you me, you do not want to mess with a goddess in a grump. There was no warmth in her, so when she walked the earth, well, nothing changed. It stayed hard and barren and frozen. And then Ostara, she spied a very strange thing. Yes, it was a field of hares, dancing hares. In fact, it was field upon field upon field with dancing hares, all dancing a weird, strange, amazing, mysterious, circular dance. And as Ostara approached, well, the hares, they made an avenue for her, and they bowed. And right at the centre of the circle, Ostara found Sally and Harry, the beautiful hares, and they were sat on a nest, and in the middle of that nest was the most wonderful, precious, incredibly brightly coloured egg. And as Ostara watched it, it began to rock and roll and creak and crack, and eventually it crumbled, and inside was the most perfect baby hare. Yes, a little tiny white leveret. And Ostara, she picked it up and she snuggled it to her face, and as she snuggled it to her face, well, it filled her heart with warmth. And in that moment, spring returned. And that, my friends, is the story, albeit a rather brief version, of Ostara and the hare.
Grandad, do hares really lay eggs?
Yes, of course they do, darling.
I don't think you're telling the truth.
Well, okay. Not exactly the truth as such. You see, hares scrape a shallow nest in the ground. It's called a form, and this is just the sort of place that the lapwing likes to lay her eggs. And sometimes she does just that. Then when the hare comes back to her form, she will often plonk herself down on the eggs. So no surprise then that in days of old, many country folk believed that hares did in fact lay eggs. Or perhaps the nests were just so similar they couldn't tell the difference. Of course, when the church came to town, hares fell out of favour because of their pagan associations, and so they were shape-shifted into the cutesy fluffy Easter bunnies that we now see all around us. Sweet and saccharine they may be, but clearly the Christians had overlooked the fact that bunnies do love to bonk. Indeed, they have a passion for procreation sufficient to make even the most worldly Puritan blush. Oh, get a room, you two. So while we're talking sweet and saccharine, let's talk about eggs. Today, these are made of chocolate. They appear on the supermarket shelves as soon as the last Christmas cracker has been pulled and have become a £100 billion a year business. You can buy a nice little number for £10,000, or if you're a little bit strapped for cash, a mere 130 smackaroonies will buy you an egg dripping with gold, which, to be H, is neither tasty nor tasteful. But long before Nestlé nestled in on the act, painted eggs and a host of eggy traditions had long been a feature of this festival, partly because this is the time when hens come back into lay, and also because eggs symbolise the season, a balance of dark yolk and light white, or the sun god held within the moon goddess, herself a symbol of sexuality and fertility. And the sap is certainly rising now in both flora and fauna. Hares are boxing, birds are dawn chorusing, and insects are hatching. And this is one of the reasons that throughout history, March has been the time for spring cleaning, when the straw that covered floors during the winter months was discarded, and with it a whole host of mini beasties. And another custom of the season was for women to brave the bracing waters of the local spring for a cheeky dip, in order to rejuvenate their youthful beauty. Just why would they do that?
Because I'm worth it.
So there you have it, the Spring Equinox. Now, we don't know for sure that this was actually celebrated here at Grimspound, but we do know that the Proto-Celtic cultures certainly did celebrate the Spring Equinox, as evidenced by the West Kennet Long Barrow near Avebury. But what relevance does that all have for us now, 5,000 years later? Well, we spent the long, cold, dark days of winter hunkered down by the hearthside, haven't we? But now there is a feeling of hope. There's a feeling of freshness. Call it spring in the air if you like, because it's time to actually act. We've spent a very long time planning and preparing. Now it's time to do. It's time to launch our boat. It's time to get out there and make things happen. Yes, all around us the Earth Mother is birthing new life, and now is the time for us to birth our new lives. A chick hatches from its shell, and we too must now leave ours. For some that shell has been a place of peace and comfort, for others pain and confinement. But either way, it is now time to shed our shell if we are to spread our wings and fly. And just as that little chick must work hard to break free from its shell, we too must accept that effort is usually needed to effect change and enable growth. And there is rarely gain without pain. So push, 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 and you too can create a new and beautiful thing, brimming with promise and potential. Oh, just like my little grandson. Isn't he yummy? I'll be back again at Beltane, when we'll be getting very up close and personal. But until then, and on behalf of the ancestor spirits here at Grimspound, I'll bid you hail and farewell. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's really kind. Thank you, thank you. I don't mind if I do. Bless you. Oh. Do you see the white hare standing still for a moment? There are footprints there under the great oak. Oh, Ostara is arising, and the Lord of the Woods, he is ready. Yes, the Lord of the Woods, oh, the Lord of the Woods. Yes, the Lord of the Woods, He is ready.